let's talk about Men. Men is A24's newest horror movie written and directed by Garland. And if you have been living under a rock these past few weeks, let me give you a breakdown. Recent widow Harper travels to the English countryside following the death of her husband, James. After she rents a home and meets the wonderful innkeeper Jeffrey, she starts to notice some weird things happen around town. I have been sitting on my thoughts for this movie for a long time. I went and saw it late last week, and I still don't know what I want to say about it. But I know that I want to say something. I want to have the discussion with you guys. So because of that reason, this is going to be a spoiler-filled review. Caution, yellow tape, I'm telling you now, please do not proceed any further. And even though this movie was not my favorite, it still deserves our support. So please, I encourage you to go see it, come back, check out this review, and let's discuss. Like I mentioned earlier, Men tells the story of Harper, who travels to the English countryside after the death of her husband. I'm just gonna jump right in. I don't know what to make of this movie. And I think it's like the very definition of you had me in the first half. The shots were beautiful, the sound design was gorgeous and haunting, everything was perfect, including Jessie Buckley's performance. The woman is just, she's magic. Even Roy Kinnear, I mean, the man plays multiple different men and he still does an outstanding job. And yes, the point of contention around this movie has been that it is basically a bash on men, blaming them for toxic masculinity and being hypocritical about their gender and just being all around not great people sometimes. And do I agree with that? Abso-fucking-lutely. As a woman who has dealt with this all of her life, I am very aware that the tones that Garland chose to include into his movie are very accurate. If you're a man and you are angry about what was happening in this movie, then you should just be angry all the damn time, because this happens to women everywhere, every day, around the world. We see Harper's relationship with her ex-husband turns abusive, with him punching her in the face, and then we kind of get to that question of, okay, so was her husband's death, and was it her actions that drove him to, or was it an accident of him falling off the balcony trying to get to their room, which was below that balcony? And another reoccurring theme that we see here is guilt. Harper's guilt for driving her husband to maybe end his own life, TBD. And for the first half of the movie, the dread and fear that Garland was able to insert into this was accurate and it was terrifying. The first half of this movie was absolutely terrifying, especially as a woman. As Harper is traveling around this town and is meeting all of the different townsfolk, the vicar, the high school kid, I think he was a high school kid, I don't know, Jeffrey, the innkeeper, owner, whatever you want to call him, you realize that all of these men are played by Roy Kinnear. One man, with subtle differences made to make him appear as different people, but you can also clearly tell that it's the same person. And that element alone was extremely off-putting. The way that her husband was talking to her, the way that the vicar was talking to her, this is like classic gaslighting. They are gaslighting the hell out of Harper, especially her husband. Of course, in this day and age, gaslighting is a very common thing. Unfortunately, it's awful, but as a woman who has dealt with it, you're very quick to pick up on these themes, and it made me angry for Harper. I was angry for Harper. I hated what she was going through after her husband and with these men in this town who felt like they could give her advice on how to live her life. They could kind of get little hits and digs in. It just made me angry. So
when the ending came,
and the ending, it did come. Harper is battling all of these different versions of one man, and she doesn't do anything. And that's where this movie started to take a turn for me. Spending half of this movie building up our anger and our frustration for what this character is going through, what she's experiencing, and then seeing her fall flat when she had a chance to act and to stand up for herself is really disappointing. And maybe that's just not the point of the movie at all. Maybe that's not what he wanted to do. Maybe he wanted to focus on the fact that a lot of women, when presented in those situations, just completely shut down. And if that was the point of her character, shutting completely down, then okay, I guess. I hate using this word. I hate it. But it was pretentious. There was so much here that could have just pushed even harder that wasn't achieved. And that's incredibly disappointing. And I know for a lot of people this resonated with them, the imagery of birthing, which let me say, there are body horror elements in this movie, as we all are aware if you have seen it, and there are multiple birthing scenes. Now, The amount of men that I heard in my movie theater say, ugh, ew, I bet your wives fucking love you, dude. I bet they loved having you in that room with them when they were giving birth to your kid. I bet they loved it. But what I took away from that scene was the fact that these traits and behaviors are kind of handed down from generation to generation to generation. It's a learned behavior, right? So if you have a man and he is the embodiment of cocky and snarky and my way or the highway, and he has a kid and passes on these traits to that child, teaching them that it's not okay for a man to have emotions, that it's not okay for men to outwardly express their feelings, that carries on, and that creates a chain of toxicity. And you know, personally, that's what I took away from it. You can't escape it, basically, is what I think he's trying to say. You can't escape it. And I will say, though, the last scene where he's giving birth and it's actually James and it's coming out of his mouth, Alex Garland did say that some of this movie was inspired by Attack on Titan, and in my mind, that's literally like what I saw. Is like, I was imagining a Titan eating somebody and their feet were like going down their mouth. That's besides the point. I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but the fact that her deceased husband was the last person to emerge from these birthing scenes kind of drove that point home for me, that there's no escaping what you've already been through. And it's just a cycle that's ongoing and ongoing. But when Harper has an axe in her hand and sits next to him on the couch, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, I was so frustrated that I just wanted to laugh. And I know she very well could have ended up killing him. It's an ambiguous ending, of course, that's a reoccurring theme with these movies, but I really would have liked some type of verification that she had ended this cycle herself. I want to know that Harper got the ending that she deserved, and I don't know that. I do know that the Leaf Man was their take on the Green Man, which is a pagan deity, and I do know that the Green Man represents rebirth and that spring cycle, you know, when you die, you come back, you die, you come back, whatever. But I don't understand what that had to do with Harper being in an abusive relationship. There were just so many other ways that he could have taken this movie that would have been more effective for me and more effective for the general audience. But, you know, some people really did resonate with this and they really liked it, and that's great. Horror is subjective, right? We have to be compassionate of that fact that some people it really disturbed them. But did it disturb me? Absolutely not. If it would have stuck with what they were going with in the first half, it would have been great. It would have been a home run, but they didn't. They chose to do something different. They took a risk, and in my opinion, it didn't pay off, but in some people's opinions, it was the exact thing that they needed to do. So, to each their own. But at the end of the day, this is just not a movie that was for me. Will I rewatch it when it comes out on VOD? Totally. There was probably a lot of things that I missed in that first viewing that I need to go back and I need to let sink in a little further. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys' continued support on this channel. It means the absolute world to me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, or if you really want to stick around and join our creepy little family, just click that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you come back next time. Stay creepy.